After First Contact, Star Trek movies abandoned TNG's coolest Enterprise edition. When Star Trek First Contact beamed into theaters in 1996, it didn't just give fans a thrilling showdown with the Borg and some of the best action sequences in the franchise's history. It also gave us the USS Enterprise E, a stunning new iteration of Starfleet's flagship. Sleek, powerful, and designed with cinematic flair, the Enterprise E seemed like the perfect vessel to carry the next generation crew into a bold future. But oddly enough, after its triumphant debut in First Contact, this upgraded Enterprise, arguably the coolest ship the TNG era ever saw, was largely underutilized and eventually forgotten in the subsequent films. It's one of the most baffling choices the Star Trek franchise ever made. A new starship for a new era. The Enterprise E was a much-needed upgrade after the destruction of the Galaxy-class Enterprise D in Star Trek Generations. While beloved, the D was designed more like a luxury hotel in space than a warship. With the rising stakes of feature films, especially in an era leaning heavily toward action and spectacle, a sleeker, more aggressive starship was required. And that's exactly what the Sovereign-class Enterprise E provided. With its elongated saucer, swept-back nacelles, and more militaristic tone, the E didn't just look fast and powerful. It felt like a ship ready for high-stakes battles and galactic crises. Designed by John Eves, the Enterprise E symbolized a shift in tone from the TV show's diplomatic focus to a cinematic landscape where Starfleet captains had to fire phasers just as often as they offered olive branches. In First Contact, this new Enterprise got plenty of time to shine. From its bold assault on the Borg cube to the tense standoff in engineering, the ship was more than just a setting, it was a character. Its new design complemented the film's darker, edgier tone, and fans were excited to see where this ship would take them next. Wasted potential in Insurrection and Nemesis. Unfortunately, that promise quickly faded. In Star Trek Insurrection 1998, the Enterprise E was reduced to glorified transport and background scenery. Most of the film took place on a planet's surface, and while there was some brief action involving the ship, it never matched the excitement or involvement we saw in First Contact. The sleek corridors and glowing warp core were barely glimpsed, and the Enterprise E never got a true hero moment. By the time Star Trek Nemesis rolled around in 2002, the Enterprise E saw more battle, but the film itself failed to live up to expectations. Though the ship was involved in a climactic fight with Shin's Scimitar, even that confrontation was visually muddy and emotionally flat. The ship took heavy damage, but the audience never got the sense that the Enterprise E was truly central to the story. It was just there, doing its duty, but never being celebrated or spotlighted the way the original Enterprise or even the Enterprise D had been. The Enterprise E deserved better. What makes this neglect so disappointing is that the Enterprise E had everything going for it. Its design was among the most beloved in franchise history. It could handle combat with the Borg and Romulans. Its bridge, engine room, and tactical stations were redesigned for dynamic filming. But despite all this, the movies never really gave the ship its due. Why didn't the filmmakers capitalize on it? Perhaps part of the answer lies in the scripts. The TNG films increasingly focused on the personal journeys of the crew, especially Picard, at the expense of broader Star Trek world-building. As the franchise became more introspective and less exploratory, the Enterprise E was no longer a symbol of discovery and diplomacy. It became a background element, a vessel for the crew rather than a character in its own right. Compare that to how Star Trek, the original series, treated the original Enterprise. That ship felt alive, with its own quirks and iconic moments. It was central to the stories. In contrast, the Enterprise E was rarely given the same spotlight, even though it had all the makings of a new fan favorite. A forgotten legacy. To make matters worse, the fate of the Enterprise E is never even shown on screen. In Star Trek Picard, it's revealed in passing that the ship is no longer in service, and that its demise involved something so awkward that even Worf claims, "That was not my fault." That single throwaway line is all the closure fans get for one of Starfleet's most powerful ships. No grand decommissioning, no emotional goodbye, not even a final mission. Just gone. The ship that helped save Earth from the Borg fought against a Romulan coup and represented the cutting edge of Starfleet design vanished without ceremony. For a ship introduced with such flair and promise, its disappearance is a letdown of galactic proportions. What could have been?